What's up, Global TV? My name is Wiggy versus the World, and I'm a producer. One half of a production team called Dope Season, obviously the more gorgeous half. And yeah, we're here for a good time. Let's get it.
Since gambling's not your thing and what you're living for. Girl, life is all about taking chances. She said, I'm never gonna let my heart break again. Yeah. Girl, you don't even know what I'm offering. Girl, give me a chance. I'm not like these other fools. I'm someone to treat you right, hold you tight when you're down and feeling blue. Girl, give me a chance. You ain't got nothing to lose. Give me a chance. Give me a chance. You ain't gotta lie, you know you wanna be loved.
What is the most exciting thing that is that is on the horizon or has happened or it is looking to maybe happen this year for you?
Man, most. So, the opportunity to get placed on a major artist, I can't say no names, can't give no details, but just to be able to be in the room with some of these people that, people just go crazy for, or greats or future greats. Ooh, I almost spoiled something. Just to be able to like have a record with them on it is just, I mean, it's what you look forward to as a producer, because you grind every day, you make beats, these beats sit on your hard drive, or you work with like other creators, like a songwriter or other singers. You guys build these records, and right now, and these records are just your imagination on wax. And then to now hear that record sang by or performed by this artist, it's surreal. It is surreal, especially like when you first get like the vocals, when you hear vocals of the artist. Like the record is not yet mixed or mastered or anything, but you get, oh, they already cut the vocals. When you get that, or it's just something that is hard to explain. It's just so unreal because you imagine it like growing up working, but when you're as you're experiencing, it doesn't feel real. It doesn't feel real until, I don't think it'll ever feel real until the record actually drops, and I'm gonna be like, oh my God, this is what we've dreamt of. You know what I mean? This is what all the nights, we worked on it, brought this, it became this. So I would say, yeah, I mean, that's what's coming. And placement is like when you are when you know for a fact there's a release date. This record will release, whether it's on a project or it's a single. That is the most concrete, like, it's placed. It's not a, is it? It's not a, it's no more guesswork. To get a placement, it's already has a release. It's releasing. Everybody signed off. Everybody's percentages and credits are, taken care of. It's out. And that is a placement.
Ever had a record placed for?
Yeah. Yeah. So you see, now you have to be specific, like on what level, because we release music all the time. Like whether at the local level, people are releasing records, you're producing. But if I would say a major record, so back in 2010, I believe 2010, that era, I had a record with Felicia Ross, which I'm a huge fan, Haitian artist, you know, she's dope. Felicia Ross, she had Jacure and Young Jock on the record. We flipped the Roberta Flack record, I Love You. I don't know, actually, yeah. The Closer I Get to You. So we flipped that record for her, and it was just out of there. So I watched it climb the charts. I believe it was like the R&B something. I don't remember, but it climbed, and I was like, "Oh my God, I placed!" You know, this is out. And man, I remember telling my mom, my siblings, like, "Hey guys, we made it. Like, soon the checks are gonna come in. We're gonna be da da da." But
So you're saying there's a difference between, like, there's different levels of being placed.
correct.
Yeah. And so what is the level of placement that is exciting you right now that you can that you see this potential placement sort of as a big victory for you? Like, what is the placement that you're looking at, right? Like, what constitutes this placement that might potentially happen right now? What is it about that placement that to you makes it like next level that you reach for, that you're constantly reaching for at this stage of your career?
The difference between this next level of placement is the fact that these are like the major artists. These are the artists everyone aspires to be or work with. And then it puts you in a different level of producer. So anybody can produce for Joey down the street. But can you land a record on 2 Chainz's album? Can you land a record on Beyonce? Those are like what we want to be able to. Of course, you want to be able to make money, you know, saying producing, whether it's single licensing. But when you're placing a record on a major artist, an artist that you know is performing, is touring, is like when you go to, for example, my partner Kings, he wrote on the Usher single Good Good, right? And it's such a proud moment for me. Like, he's in Atlanta, I'm here in Miami, and I'm at a bar and I hear Good Good. I'm like, oh man, my boy worked on that. My guy worked on this. My guy placed on a Legends album. Like, everybody knows Usher is that guy. So I'm aspiring to get on that level. Yes, we're on the same team, but he actually achieved where we're all trying to achieve. So every day we work, and now with the, you know, opportunities presented to us, like the possibilities to get on a major went from like 10% chance, 1% chance, to now it's like you can't even put a cap on it. You don't know, because now you're in rooms that you were never, you know, allowed to be before, but because of your networks, who you know, you're able to now get into certain rooms that are usually reserved for the more industry producers. You know what I mean? The people who have already been to the promised land. So of course they'll get first dibs on new projects or new. So to be able to like be close, like the closest I've ever been, it is surreal. It is surreal because, man, like, it doesn't feel real. That's the best way I can say it, because you can aspire to be here. You can work years and years at your craft and never get to even where we are now. However, just to know that man, you're just literally, the door is like opening for you to be able to walk in and be, it's crazy. It's crazy.
So Wiggy, bring me back to the inception of the dream.
Where it all started, man, I would have to say high school. Like, don't get me wrong, like all through growing up and playing, because I play keys, so learning pieces of music, I've always admired composers. And I'm like, yo, I'm playing some Mozart. I'm playing some Beethoven. I'm playing these guys who just sat down and said, I wanted to create something for people to enjoy. So I always knew that is something I wanted to do. So I remember my piano lessons as a kid. My dad was like a strict piano teacher. I always had to learn a piece of music as is. He always told me, hey, Wiggy, before you can break the rules, learn the rules. Learn the right way to do things. Learn it exactly as it is. After you've mastered that, then you can do whatever it is you want to do. But respect the piece of music. So it wasn't until high school when I used to collab with like producers at my school. I was just a session musician at that point, just playing keys on other people's beats. I'm like, wow, I want to do this. Sitting in studios, you're seeing them whatever, and then telling you, all right, play. And then now you play, and then they take whatever you just played and then turn it into something crazy. And I was like, wow, I've always wanted to do that. And it wasn't until like maybe like my junior year in high school when I started like really testing out a couple of like DAWs that are like, I went from Cubase to like Fruity Loops, and I was running with Fruity Loops for a while, and then even learned a little Pro Tools. And it wasn't until like really when I got into like Miami-Dade, and I was just a music education major. Like somebody was like, hey man, you play keys? I'm like, yep. Can you play on this song? I was like, sure. And then it was kind of like, nah, I got to learn how to make beats. And it was just like a lot of trial and error. I still have some of my original beats. Like I always like to hear where I come from and what I sound like now. And it's always kind of like, wow, that kid had like raw potential. You know what I mean? And just to hear like, you know what I mean? Like to see, man, I used to suck. However, you saw you saw things that would eventually, like the skill that was there, that way, as I ironed, that would eventually become to where like where I'm at now, to where I feel like, I mean, I'm dope. You know what I mean? So and like the journey, like from like early college, high school, early college, like man, I've had like my ups. I've had my ego moments where I felt like I was untouchable. And then you meet a producer that's way better than you, and then you get humbled. Then I also experienced being the producer that was better than another producer. But instead of beating your chest, you were like, hey, I made those same mistakes. Like, try this. Let's collab. I'll show you how I do things. And you have your own way of doing things. I don't want you to take my style, but just see how I navigate a record. And I feel like that is something I've picked up from my mentors. My mentor, Chad Beats and Ronnie Jackson, like those guys have placed. Like Chad has done a lot of records with like G-Unit, had a lot of like majors with like Ashanti. Ronnie has worked with everybody from like Beyonce, R. Kelly to whatever. And it's crazy. I met Chad by accident, like leaving a session that I was supposed to have been left, but Haitians would be late. So my parents were late to picking me up. So I met Chad, and I was like, hey man, I want to make beats like you, man. Like I want to be in the studios. And he was like, bruh, it's not the gear and the plugins, it's you. I thought I had to have like the fancy studio to make the fancy beats. He was like, nah, if you ain't got it, no amount of gear is gonna make you dope. And then I used to send him beats and he used to collab. And then back in like, I believe 2014, 2015 is when I met Ronnie. And crazy thing is like, he is my best friend's uncle. Like he married like her aunt. And I met him playing spades one Thanksgiving at the granny's house. And I was like, and she was like, hey man, Ron, this my best friend Wiggy, he makes beats. And he was like, all right, send me some stuff. So I used to send him beats, and at first he wouldn't say anything, but I would just keep sending. I just was like, you know what, you're gonna like something I sent eventually. So I just kept sending, and then one day, like, and I remember I followed him on IG around that time, and he didn't follow me back yet, but it was one time he actually commented on one of my, I posted a beat, and he was like, I see you, Wig, and that was just enough for me. I was like, oh man, that's dope. And then he was like, man, just come to Atlanta. So of course, like, with years of like, working with both of them, like we have like records I've done, collabs with both. Ronnie was like, hey, come to Atlanta. Let's see what it is that you want to do for real. So I will never forget, it was like around like, a little after 2017, 2018 to like into like the pandemic, I used to fly to Atlanta all the time just to sit in the studio and watch like the guy work. And I'm like, wow, I need to step my shit up. You know what I mean? And I would ask, and he would always answer. And that's one thing I respect with the guys that I am honored to call like my mentors, like my brothers. Like, some producers will gatekeep stuff. And me, like, I'm a sponge. Like, I want to learn, I want to experience, like, I don't ever want to be weak in a genre. That has always been my thing. Like, as a piano player, like, I play R&B, I play jazz, I play gospel, I play classical. So I wanted to be that as a producer. When somebody comes to Wig, you know, hey, I can get pop, R&B, trap, hip hop, you know what I mean, EDM. I want to be that. So I used to like ask a lot of questions like, hey, how do I approach this? How do I do this? And they were always, you know, open to like, you know, explaining to me the process or refining my process. Because I had a process, you know what I mean? I used to beat my chest around like my peers, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, you know what I'm saying? We used to compete. I used to have my rivalries. But then when you meet the greats, you just gotta, you humble yourself real quick, and you're like, you know what? Nah, this is where I want to be. I used to study Ryan Leslie videos. I used to study like, you know what's crazy? I started listening to like music like with like the West Coast era. Like, I will never forget in middle school, they were like, hey, you play piano? Yeah, this song has piano in it. And it was The Way I Am, Eminem. And then I was like, oh, that's dope. So I learned it. And I was like, who made this? Dr. Dre. And I started researching all of Dr. Dre's beats. Oh, so he worked with this person, he worked with this person introduced me to this. So I was just soaking music. Like, I was just downloading different genres and experimenting. And it just kind of started like really, you know what I'm saying, forming into something that, you know, my mentors were able to like say, hey, we can mold this. We can fix this. And yeah, man, and I'm grateful for all the opportunities. And even, man, still the current, like, you know, I can call them at any point in time, like, hey man, I need help. Like, what do you think about this beat? Why do I feel like it's unfinished? Or did I overproduce this? And then they'll tell me, you know what I mean? With no ego, you know, and we need people like that. So that has always been part of like my journey has always been filled with like people who I can always count on to like really say, hey, I need some help. you know what I mean? And they were there, you know what I mean? And it's helped me be a little bit more like them, to where like when I link up with another producer that's on their journey just like me, yes, I'm a little bit ahead of them on the same journey, but I can do for them what was done for me, you know what I mean? So like this journey is still continuing, you know what I mean? I still aspire to have that number one, you know what I mean? And yeah.
So that sounds like it. So what was the first big dream?
The first big dream, just to hear my song on the radio. It was just to hear a song on the radio. And yeah.
Did that happen?
Twice, actually. I had this song with this Jamaican dude, Macaulay King, and that was all over like the radios in Power 96 around that time. And I was like, oh man, I made it. And they were like, nope, you didn't make it yet. You know what I'm saying? This is just, you know, whatever. And then came the Felicia Ross record, and I was like, oh cool, I made it now. And it was like, not yet. You know, you still got to learn the business. And then so every now and then, you know, I haven't been back on the radio yet, but that's good because like I wasn't ready. Do I feel like I'm ready now? Hell yeah. You know what I mean? I feel like I've been battle tested. I feel like, you know what I mean? This grind I've been on, like my teammates, like the grinds we've been on together, like we're ready. We feel we're ready to compete with anybody. And that's just where I am.
How long have you been, I would say, active on sort of the journey from when you feel like, okay, I actually completed a record, and now I'm going to put this through the processes of getting it on the radio or getting placement, basically? Like how long, what would you say, would you say, maybe like roundabout, like when you're like, here's a record that I produce, see if I can get it on the radio or get it placed with an artist.
When I got Macaulay's record, I think I had really just started producing, like for real. Like I used to make beats, but I didn't really call myself a producer. And I was still being tutored, you know, by Chad and, you know, people I had around me. So that, because I was already in a situation with, that was around Macaulay. So it was basically, it didn't really take that much time. Like I made a beat that they were like, oh snap, this is dope. He recorded it and it was on the radio, like honestly, after it was mixed and mastered, maybe like a week later. You know what I mean? So that would have been like my fastest, you know what I mean, to get on the radio. Felicia Ross, that was a little different. That label, I didn't even know her at that time. I made a record for her, and I think it was maybe like a good year after, and they were like, hey, yeah, this song got to Felicia. And I'm like, oh, dope. All right. And then it was out. Oh, dope. You know what I mean? And that definitely was a process, because the industry is very like, I don't want to say need to know. Like you don't really get all the information until it's time to get the information. And sometimes you still don't get it. You're just finding out, oh snap, you have a record on the radio. And then you got to remember, hey, this is the record I worked on like last year sometime. And then now you're just doing the math. I'm like, okay, they probably got it at this time, recorded it, mixed and mastered, did the promo and all that stuff for it. Now it's out today. And you're like, okay. So then sometimes you just got to reverse engineer the process, but it kind of gives you like insight of like now what it will look like in the future. Because now when you're working, whether you're working with like a local talent or even a major, people are working on, like, let's say a major project. If they say, okay, Ludacris is working on an album, it's not like he's going to drop the album next week. He got it. There's sessions that need to be cut. Then there's records that need to be done. It needs to be approved, cut, all that stuff. So people are sending, like multiple producers across the world, across the networks, are sending beats or sending full songs or sending hooks or sending whatever. And then it gets filtered by, okay, do we like this or not? So that process could take a year, 2 years. I think the longest I've seen was maybe a 2-year process. And it actually went to being placed, whether it's like a single or the album. Sometimes you may work on a song 2 years later and it's like, you know what, artists decided they don't want to do this project anymore. You know what I mean? Yeah, you got this song, like we thought we were going to drop this album, but hey, that person is doing something else. So now you got to be like, oh, damn, you did all those times grinding. Now the record goes right back into your hard drives until, so it's up in the air. You never know, but it helps to know people in the places that make the decisions. So they can be like, hey, wait, saying we're working on such and such right now. What do you have? So you send, and then that just starts the clock. Whether it's creating it or you have stuff already. You send it in, the clock starts. And then you just wait. But while you're waiting, you're making other stuff because you never know. Sometimes they'll be like, okay, yeah, can you change this beat? The beat you sent like 2 weeks ago, like, yeah, man, we need this edit. So now you got to go back into that beat and change it again, send it and say, oh, you know what? We didn't like the change. Can you do something else? So you're still working, but then you're still working on other stuff because now you're getting an idea of like, okay, this is probably what they're looking for. Let's build something a little more fine-tuned for this artist. And then that process is just daily. You got to wake up and you got to do the work. And it's just something, sometimes it gets, I wouldn't say boring. I wouldn't say boring. I would say sometimes you get kind of down because you've put in so much work and then you have yet to see the fruits of the work. But you almost need to reprogram yourself to now look at it and just love the entire process. Whether it's a record you've been working on for like two years, it still can be placed. If it's a record you did yesterday, it can be placed or it can go somewhere. You know what I mean? Every record has a home, as my boy Kings would say. You know what I mean? So you tend to not look at the time it takes to create the record. You just look at the time when you send it. That's when the clock starts. When you're in the room with such exec and they're like, all right, play something. You can't be nervous. You just got to press play. And then you just got to take whatever happens after you press play is like, the clock starting. You know what I mean? It could be like, oh man, this is dope. Send us more. So you're like, oh, do I have more? You know what I mean? Okay, I got to create more. Or, you know what? This is not what we're looking for, but we'll keep in touch. And now okay, now you got to level up. Whatever it is you were doing before, you got to, step it up.
How long have you been in the game now?
How old am I? I'm just kidding. Let's see. Man, I think 2025 will make 20 years.
20 years.
Yeah.
20 years in the game. And that's two records played on the radio.
Yeah, so far.
What has kept you in the game?
The love of creating. I'm a creator. I don't want to come off as too like religious or whatever, but I always feel like when I'm creating, that is the closest I am to understanding like how God creates. Because now I'm creating something out of nothing, out of thin air, just an idea, a feeling. So I'm creating tangible, piece of music out of nothing. That feeling is always enticing. You know what I mean? I can drive and hear somebody yell out the rhythm and just say, hey, you know what? Let me do. It can inspire something. You know what I mean? So, I the love I have for music, I've always had. I guess as a kid, I grew up in music. My dad was a church musician. I am a church musician, producer. I love all sorts of genres. So I don't ever feel like I can get bored or even give up on it because it's part of my DNA. You know what I mean? It's like you cannot see Wiggy and not see music or see him attached to music. That's all I want to do. And it's just to hear, especially when you hear when you first finish a record and you get to sit and now be a fan of what you just did. Like, man, I am my biggest fan. I can listen to a piece of music that I've created over and over. I will never get tired. People are like, yo, Wig, we're done. Let's just do something else. Like, yeah, one more time. I drive listening to my own beats. I like, you know what I mean? I'll be at my house and I'll just play old beats. And like I said, like, I still have my earliest beats, like my oldest, like my initial, like the things that when I first put fingers to the keyboard, I still own all those records. So sometimes I just listen just for enjoyment. Sometimes I like to clown on myself, like, man, Wig, you were just all over the place. Or I just listen for like, okay, I'll take it from here. Like young Wig produced it to this for. I got it from here. You know what I mean? I can take it and really finish the idea. And that's the thing about music. Like, music is like, it's a language. You know what I mean? As fluent as speaking, as fluent as music is to me. I can really do this till I'm in my grave, honestly. Like, I can see myself 70, 80 years old, 90 years old, still creating, still performing, still like, you know, enjoying music, you know?
AI music.
Oh, it is an ongoing conversation right now. There are producers who fear AI. There are producers who think that AI is just bad for business, which could all be true. But for me, I embrace AI, actually. Like, I think of the possibilities of something before it just falls apart. I rather look at what can be instead of speculating what can go wrong, because then I'll spend too much time there and there's nothing productive there. But AI for me has been exciting, man. Like, for example, like, I mean, me and my team, we use AI right now in our records. Like, in the past, if we wrote a record and we wanted to get it demoed, like, my guy Kings would have to write the record, sing it, teach it to another singer. That person demos it for said artist. Now, we just cut all that process out. It's now, he pens it, he sings it himself, uploads it into AI, comes back as Jay-Z, comes back as whoever it is, and it sounds exactly like it. It gives you a real idea of what that artist sounds like on your records. It's just, you know, where else can you get Jay-Z to demo your record? I mean, the guy's too busy. You know what I mean? So like, and it's crazy because like we have like this one record where we have like the AI of like Rihanna, and it sounds exactly like Rihanna. And it's like, oh my gosh, I know this is fake, but if you play it for anybody else and you don't say it's AI Rihanna, people are like, yo, when did you get Rihanna on your record? Like, you know, we're in, you know. But I love AI. You can use it to, you know, saying help your work process, your work flow, you know, saying, or you can just not and just wait for the inevitable where you're just gonna have no choice but to work with it anyways. I like to be ahead of the curve, so I'm all for AI, man. What's a music producer to me? So the guy or girl or whatever that is a that produces the record, and I hate using the word in the definition, from inception to the end. So if you're part of the song from when it is first thought up to when it's done. So now that, the record is done and now it's being mixed and mastered, now it's done and it's out. But a producer these days hold many hats. So it could be the guy who maybe not be at the beginning, but you say, man, I started a song on piano, I'm going to go take it to a producer. And now the producer takes it and develops it into this masterpiece. Or it could be a beat maker. You know what I mean? There's the guy who just sits and I don't want to do it to anybody. I just want to send beats. Those guys are producers too. But for me, I'm hands-on. The producer to me gotta be hands-on. You gotta be at some part of the record, whether it's the beginning to the end, but before the end, you have to have imprinted on this record. You have to have some type of, you know what I mean? Whether it's like, you know what, maybe we change this kick and you maybe move that kick. It should be here. That's producing. Maybe you'd be like, you know what, this guitarist is dope, but let's get somebody else. And then you play it and say, I need you to play this guitar like this, and you play it, and then they just replay it. To me, that's what a producer is. To me, there's so many definitions, and there is like a producer war on social media where like some producers feel like just because they make the beats that they're producers. Some people feel like just because they tell the producers what to do, like the beat makers, that they're producers. But I just feel like as long as you imprint the record at some point before the end, you're a producer.
What makes a great producer to you?
Oh man. You are willing to take your ego out of it and do what's best for the record. That is, for me, the fundamental requirement for what makes, because you can be like, man, I've made 20,000 trap beats all my life, so I know how it goes. But maybe for this artist, you need to change it up and do something like out of the norm. You need to be able to take your ego out of the record and do what's best for the record. And I can't say I fully learned that. It's something that I fight with because I am a proud producer. When I lay something down, I feel like it is what it needs to be. However, I am never too stubborn to change something because it's what's best for the record. And any great producer will know, ultimately, are you willing to do whatever it takes for this record to be what it needs to be?
How does one become a music producer?
You buy a laptop. I'm just kidding. You gotta just want it. Like, you gotta search inside, and because maybe producing is not for you. You could probably just want to be part of the music industry. But if you really want to be a music producer, you got to be willing to, one, put in the work, or one, program yourself to be willing to put the work necessary. Because it's not just, and I love the memes where guys are just jamming in the studio and you're thinking that's what a producer is. No, man. Sometimes you're spending 20 minutes looking for the right kick or the right snare or the right sound. Are you willing to put in that work? Are you willing to do shit you don't want to do? Are you willing to do are you willing to deal with people you don't want to deal with? Sometimes you might have a bratty artist or a bratty musician that just wants to do things away, or they're in their feelings. So are you willing to still work through that issue? You know what I mean? Music producing for me is not for everybody. Even though I do feel like everybody can create in one way or form something. But to be a music producer, you have to want to be able to, one, trust your heart, learn, collab. You got to be willing to remove yourself, remove your ego. I know I said that already, but I got to emphasize, you got to be able to like say, hey, this song needs to be this because it needs to be here. I can take it here. Maybe I need to collab with another producer that I don't like. Or maybe I don't feel as dope as me. But for some reason, that is the producer that takes the record from here to here. So are you willing to do that?
Now, we're in this incredible studio right now.
Right?
Right? Where you look at all the machines and the buttons and all these things, and to someone probably new to music producing, they're gonna look and be like, this looks like probably what it looks like at NASA or something. Right? But then you have, a 12 or 13-year-old maybe who wants to make music. And all of this is way too daunting. So where do you start if you want to produce music?
Look, it's daunting for me even at this stage. I can't tell you. I mean, I can't even begin to tell you how to properly use all this stuff. However, if you want to aspire to be, I will always say, experiment with a few DAWs, DAWs, digital audio works stations. I think that's a definition. Don't quote me. Find the one that you like, because it's just a canvas. Whether you're a Pro Tools person, Logic person, Ableton person, Cubase person, Studio One person, that's just the canvas. Now, what you put on the canvas, that's you. That's the work you got to put in. You got to figure out what styles you like. What type of producer you want to be. Do you want to just be an R&B producer? Then you got to figure out what it takes to be an R&B producer. But I will always say, in my opinion, I would always start with a MacBook. They have never let me down. I've had my share of PCs making beats, and it's just no shade to PCs, but it's not for me. I would always say, get quality. You know what I mean? You get a pretty nice interface, get a nice MIDI controller, get a nice computer. Whatever DAW you decide to use, some has internal plugins like instruments that you can use, some don't. YouTube University. Go on YouTube, look at there are producers that are producing on YouTube. They'll tell you what sounds they're using. Research. If I want the best string sounds, Google what has the best string sounds. And you're going to get maybe 5 to 10 plugins or instruments that has, oh yeah, we're the greatest sound banks. And you listen and you just audition and you just add to your collection. You don't need everything all at once, because I ain't gonna lie, at this part of my career, I've become like a sound hoarder. Like I have like close to like 5 terabytes worth of just sounds, drums, kicks, basses, and I still want more. But I do have like my set drums that I like, that sounds like me, that when I hear, like, yeah, that sounds like a Wiggy snare. For this record, I need this snare. But like I always tell people, like, take their time. Like, there's no rush to become a producer. Once you make the decision and say, hey, I want to produce music, then you start asking the follow-up questions, like what type of producer I want to be. Do I want to be the producer that only plays live instruments? Then you got to figure out how to get all the live instruments into what program. If you want to be a producer that just programs everything, you got to figure out what you need. Like, what sounds do you need? What gear do you need? And you don't cut corners. It is better to not have a piece of gear than to buy a piece of gear that is terrible. Because people will tell you, like, you can make music with anything, but speakers matter. Speakers matter because I used to have like a pair of KRKs back in the day. They're better now. KRKs, and they used to lie to me. Like, I used to think my 808s was hitting at the house, but then I played in the car, the old humiliating car tests. It's humbling. Like, you play your beats in studios and like, oh man, there is no bass. And you're like, okay, so now you got to learn how to mix with your speakers. So I always tell people, no, don't rush. Take your time, select your gear. And even when you use the entry-level gear, master that gear and learn what the difference between what you're hearing and what you're hearing on the radio. And you kind of like parallel and see, okay, what I need to do. It's a process that is ongoing. The moment you make the decision to become a producer, just know that you're a producer forever, unless you quit. And we don't like quitters. So you make the choice and you just stick to it, no matter how good or bad days are, no matter how tired or how disappointed, you know what I mean? You don't have the snare you want or you don't get the reaction you want, but you keep chipping at the whole block, chipping every day, almost like a relentless grind, you know what I mean? Until you create a product that you're proud of, and then you start showing people. Never feel ashamed in asking for help. That's one thing I didn't do early, because man, I thought I was the bee's knees in the beginning until I met people who were just actual producers. You know what I mean? So yeah, take your time, get your gear, like the basics, your keys, your laptop, your DAW, and experiment. Yeah.
Play that ragtime.
So yeah, man, I learned this, I think, around like 6th grade. Because I did another Scott Joplin song, The Entertainer. I played that for graduation. But like, I love ragtime music. Low. It's just like, man, I just love the fact that it's just so fun. Cause like me, like whenever I'm on like keys, like even though I'm predominantly like, you know, the first time I hop on the keys, I will always play like churchy chords because I'm such a church boy, and I gig a lot. I have like, you know, a few churches I play for. However, like, it's just calming. You know what I mean? When I'm able to just sit and just think. I will never forget like one of my first hard breakups. Like, I literally sat on a piano. I didn't talk to nobody. I had tears running through my eyes at the school, at Crop. I will never forget. And I'm just playing. People are like, yo, where all the beautiful music coming from? And I'm in there just crying my eyes off because this girl broke my heart. But, you know what I'm saying? The piano is... I love it. I remember somebody asked me like if I could lose like a sense what I would lose, like what I'm really doing. I couldn't give away, you know, touch, obviously, because I play keys, and hearing, because if I can't hear, I can't play. But man, like it's just something about putting your hands on some keys, like, and just letting whatever you feel come down. Like, I feel like it's second to none. I love that about playing an instrument, because I can explain something, I can la it all day, but you won't understand it until I play it out and be like, oh, that's what you meant, Wig. I can like, what was I gonna play? I had a brain fart just now, but because like sometimes like I hear like a melody that is like counter to what I was doing before, and it's like, oh man, that's dope. Remember this, remember this for later. I have those moments a lot, and to the point where even when I'm like producing and me and Kings are in the studio and I'll play like some dope stuff, but I'm just jamming, and he'll be like, yeah, the thing you played like 20 minutes ago. I'm like, I don't remember that stuff. I'm just playing random stuff. But it's just, this is like my happy place. And then yeah, I love blues. And of course church stuff. I love jazz. I'm saying? R&B has this way, like when I know I'm in a R&B setting, like of course I'll play what's necessary, and I'll try to I'll play some chords, and let's say if it's a little too churchy, I'll be able to pull back from those chords and just do something that's just I'll just take that and put it in a program, and it we'll write it, we'll flesh it out, and I'll add a bass like and it's just, you let whatever happens happen, and you just figure it out later. You know what I mean? That's like my creation process. Sometimes I'll just like throw whatever sticks, whatever I like, I fix, or I'll fine tune, but I'll just play until I find like a pocket or idea or a vibe that I like. And you know what I'm saying? Like for example, like for like this record, right? I produced for my guy Clay. Shout out Clay. We dropped this last year, and the process of working on the record was just hilarious. Like he used to come by my house, we were working tirelessly. We had a version that was just kind of like, all right, man, we're cool with this. And I kid you not, 2 days later, I sent him a text and like, yo, Clay, this ain't it. And he was like, what do you mean? I was like, trust me, man. Like, but for what we envisioned for this record, it's not it. And then from there, we just came back to the crib, and then we just started with 3 chords. And then those 3 chords became this. Let's start from here. Yes. Then. Then. And it became. Like, I will listen to this instrumental often just because of how it makes me feel. Like, this pad here, it just has a way it just, plays for me. You know what I mean? Certain things. There's certain things, like every time I replay a beat, you will find something else that I like. You know, a melody that I stuck with because, oh man, it had to be in there. You know what I mean? And that's just, you know what I'm saying, parts of like the process that I love. You know what I mean? Because sometimes you just never know. Like, I'll have like this clap, this impact is something I always use to like start. I either use it to start my tracks or to add some spazazz, as people would say. Like, by itself, it just feels like, you know, a clap, there's a lot of room. But when I put it here, and you gotta let your records breathe.
Although you make me feel no warmness, you don't even matter.
You know what I'm saying? It's one of my favorite records that I produced with Clay. Like, we have like such a, he's another Haitian artist. Like, when we get in a room together, like, and when we create records, like the synergy, because it's like I can read him, he can read me. Like, we know exactly where we want to go. And then he trusts me. If I tell him, hey, that harmony is not going to work here, he doesn't give me no pushback, because he anticipates like what I might add in the place of that harmony in the future. You feel me? So, and I just love that. And music is just so random. Like, you never know what the beginning of the song will be. You may have an idea of like what it should feel like, but all through the journey, like all through the versions, and most producers will tell you, man, we have version 1, version 2, version 3, final version 1, final version 2, final version 3. Like, we have so many versions of a song, but it goes back to like my original thing, like whatever is best, whatever, you have to do what's best for the record, whatever it takes. Sometimes it takes like, you know, you're just going back and starting over and saying, hey, you know what? This ain't it. This ain't it. Like, as much as we love and we really want to release this, but maybe it's not where it needs to be. And you just go back and get that work in. Yeah, simple. 3 chords. 3 chords. Which gave you this.
When I look at you, I see a goddess. I see you walking fantasy. You're the first one, girls won't be modest. Yeah, I need your love. I need your love. You're so virtue, baby, love is the issue. You got too much, yeah. Yeah, I need your love. I need your love.
Yeah, and I play along with my records. Yeah, man. A little church ending for all y'all church folk out there. Yeah, man.